So welcome to our webinar this month. You can see our topic there, Dispelling Myths to Achieve Financial Freedom. This month of March is Human Rights Month, and we celebrate both Human Rights Day, which was last week Tuesday, as well as the World Consumer Rights Day. So for consumers of financial products, a lack of financial literacy can lead us to unsustainable debt burdens, poor credit, money loss, and susceptibility be susceptible to fraud. So all of these can damage, obviously, your long-term financial success and impact the ability to live one's life on one's own terms. So saying that is also the idea of improving financial literacy will help improve or prevent poor financial decision making. And this is obviously the whole gist of this presentation today, that poor decision making. But also on the other side of the coin is improve your financial self-sufficiency and facilitate greater financial stability. So welcome to this webinar. My name is Sean van den Berg. I'm an investment specialist here at PSG Wealth. So this webinar, we'll be looking at how to improve financial literacy, obviously make better financial choices, and unpack some common financial myths. So first of all, let me just clarify what is a myth. It's basically a widely held but false belief or idea. That is why they put into a little nutshell. So if you, oops, let me just push the wrong button here. Get my mouse. There we go. Okay, so there's our little agenda. Obviously, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of slides to go through, a lot of information. So I'm going to go through some of the stuff very fast. Obviously, I didn't spend some time on what I think is important. So to get started, let's look at, I think for a lot of people, quite a situation to look at, especially if you're still young and you're just starting out. Shall I buy a home or shall I rent, especially with environment where we have rising interest rates. So I think the first thing you must understand if you're looking at buying a property is that like many financial decisions, there's no one size fits all answer. The best choice obviously will depend on a lot of factors or many factors, including your financial circumstances, your current economic environment, but also your lifestyle. But saying that, there's also, purchasing a home is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. And obviously that can affect your timelines for other financial goals. So saying that, there's also a bunch of costs that a lot of us don't take in consideration, though I might not be familiar with some of the terms. So I'm going to run through these very, very quickly, especially if you want to be a homeowner, be aware of these things. So first of all, the current debt level. What I mean by that is, do you have any student loans? Do you have any credit card debts, a car loan? So what's important to understand is your debt to income ratio. This is the amount of your gross monthly income that goes towards your monthly debt payments. This is one of the first things you need to consider if you're looking at deciding between renting and buying. So the best practice is that this debt income ratio should ideally be around about 30%. If it's higher than that, it makes more sense to rent and then obviously focus on paying down your existing debt before taking on any more debt. So that's number one. Number two, obviously getting the home loan. I've used all three words there. Home loan, some of us might refer to as a bond, and some of us might refer to it as a mortgage. But the first thing you need to, I suggest that you consider is maybe pre-qualify for a home loan. This will give you a better idea or sense of your price range that you should consider, and also the estimated monthly bond repayment for that price range you're looking at. And obviously you can fit this into your budget and see if you can fit into your budget. When I say budget, your income less your expenses, and obviously helps towards the cash flow. There are a lot of money home buying calculators available, and I sincerely recommend you looking at it. Secondly, obviously a down payment or a deposit. A lot of these banks, especially the banks, look for a deposit right now. It's obviously putting some skin in the game for yourself. Many of them are asking up to 20%. The advantage there is obviously The larger the deposit, that means the low interest you might be getting, but also it reduces the amount of your monthly bond repayments. Okay. Property taxes, obviously as a renter, you don't have to worry about property taxes. You'll see on the next slides when I talk about that, but something you do have to consider. Maintenance, and also again as a renter, this is something you don't have to worry about. The landlord usually takes care of that kind of stuff. But if you're buying a home, just understand that this is going to be one of your biggest unforeseen expenses. You know, you need a gardener. If you've got a swimming pool, you need pool care. You know, if you haven't got a lawnmower, you have to buy a lawnmower. You have to look at regular fertilizing or lawn, you know, your lawn cover, all that kind of things. Well, those things are, yeah, you can take in consideration. Regular painting of the house if you have paint work to be done. There are a lot of stuff that pops up, and that's where a emergency fund is also very useful to have, or separate fund just for maintenance. Okay. Insurance, this is a lot of if you have a bond, a lot of the banks will ask for life insurance cover, and something happens to you, at least the bond will be paid. You might also look at a home cover. You know, geyser goes, at least you got insurance for that. There's a lot of other expenses you have to take into consideration. You like utilities, you know, water and lights. If you're renting, it's usually sometimes included in the rent, sometimes not. So be aware of those kind of expenses. And then the opportunity cost. You know, the idea here is that you're taking money away from something else. It might be a big expensive holiday, a new car or retirement. All these things obviously have to be put on hold, but also it might extend your time frame for attaining them. So just be aware of those kind of things. So yeah, renting might be a better option if these things are not in your cup of tea right now. Okay, so you know, rather rent for a few years to help balance the saving for a house, and obviously and the need for other goals, financial goals. Okay, so I'm going to go through it very quickly. Yeah, just pros and cons also with regarding to renting a home. I'm going to go through this very quickly. The main thing here is if you want to avoid maintenance costs and responsibilities, renting obviously might be a better option. When you rent a property, obviously, as I said just now, the landlord usually is responsible for most of the maintenance tasks and repairs, while you as the homeowner, well, obviously you have to take all these tasks on yourself. But you can see the pros and cons. There's 5 pros and 5 cons. Okay, so it's very evenly balanced. And again, as you'll see, I highlighted it right through the presentation. These are the things you have to weigh up, and it depends on a lot of other factors, etc. Buying a home, very similar. 5 pros, 5 cons. Again, you know, the main thing here I want to highlight for you: if you go to live in a specific city for a short period of time, in other words, less than 2 years, it might be better to rent a property. Yeah, that's important to understand. So secondly, also renting offers you the flexibility to move to another location. So it gives you that flexibility. Those are the main big advantages. If you have a stable income and you plan to live in a city for a longer period of time, then it obviously makes sense to buy a property. Another thing is obviously with owning a property, you build equity over a period of time. And obviously that also helps with the appreciation of the property values and things like that. So the big thing also, if you're a homeowner, you can renovate and do things like that on the home, or redecorate your home as the way you want it to your lifestyle. Big advantage if you're the homeowner. As a renter, you won't be able to do that kind of stuff. Okay, so following on that, a lot of people also ask many times, is it better to pay off my home loan or should I rather take that money to invest? Okay, so again, pros and cons involved with kind of a choice. So first of all, if you have a high interest rate loan, it might be better to pay off the home loan as soon as possible. That's number one. And number two, if you're near retirement age and want to live debt free, it might be better to pay off the home loan as possible. It'd be a smart move. If you have other debts like credit card, or they have high interest rates, it might be better to pay off the debt first, and things like that. Okay. Paying the home loan or investing rather, the advantage there is that, yes, over the long term, the stock market has given you much better returns, higher returns than putting your money in the banks. Yes, be aware of that kind of stuff. But with that comes obviously higher risk, potential higher rewards, and higher potential risks. Be aware of those kind of things. So if you're in a situation where you have a low interest rate on your home loan, it's no use putting your money in that bond, because it's, you know, it's well, to me, it doesn't make sense. Rather put it somewhere else and get a higher return. If you're a long way from retirement and things like that, you want to build wealth. You're still in that creating wealth phase. Then it's very important for you to create a diversified portfolio of investments, be it shares and unit trust and bonds. Might be a much better decision. Okay. Investing a lump sum windfall. I find this a lot of people coming to me right now. They might have got an inheritance. They might have won the lotto. But first of all, let me just clarify, what is a windfall? Windfall is just a crazy bit of unexpected good fortune. And all of us wish we had that kind of scenario. Long forgotten in-law that your relationship or family member you didn't know about, that said he's currently sending you pounds from the UK. Imagine that. Okay, I'm not talking about some of the scams we're getting right now. So the word windfall originally originated from referred to fruit that was wind blown or fallen from the trees with the wind. That was where that term comes, windfall. What is a financial windfall? It's when you receive a large or often unexpected amount of money. So it doesn't happen very often, but if it does, what are you going to do? You play this little game for yourself. If I received suddenly 1,000 Rand, what would I do with it? A lot of people say, okay, I'll use it as a week's petrol, or might go out for a nice dinner. That's great. Have those kind of scenarios pre-planned. So there's no emotions involved. You know, if it was 5,000 Rand, what would you do with it? If it was 10,000, 20,000, plan those things ahead. Okay, so you're trying to eliminate those human emotions when we do have these windfalls, because for most of us have this tendency to go and splurge and waste that money. Okay, so let's talk about investing at lump sum windfall. So first of all, the advantages: you have the high potential for long-term growth and returns on that investment. Secondly, obviously, diversification of those funds. You're going to spread it around on different investments. You're going to manage risk. And what's also very important, over the long term, the magic of compounding. I have spoken about this before, to help you increase your investment returns over time. The disadvantage, obviously, market fluctuations, especially we're seeing right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility will impact on those returns negatively. So it's very important that you do watch your investments quite often. There's no guarantee for profit on that investments. So it's very important to be able to diversify across various asset classes. Another thing is obviously you can't take consideration the lack of liquidity, especially going to put all this windfall into a retirement annuity. Remember, you don't have access to that money to the earliest age of 55. So again, spread your investments into spread that windfall into different investments, okay, for different goals. As an example, imagine if you had inherited just 20,000 Rand, very simple. To keep it simple, but you also have a credit card debt of 10,000. Would it be better to invest that 10,000 or 20,000, or to pay off my credit card? So this credit card is being charged at 21.25%. By the way, under the National Credit Act, the maximum annual interest rate chargeable is the repo rate, which is currently about 7.25% plus 14%. That's how I got to this 21.25%. So in this scenario, you'd be paying for every 1,000 Rand a credit purchase, you'll be paying 212 Rand and 50 cents in interest charges. Okay, so you have the option in this scenario to either pay off your debt or invest as lump sum. If you decide to invest this lump sum of 20,000, very conservatively, if you're getting 8% per year, you're looking at 1,600 Rand. Okay, if the market drops or you need access to these funds urgently, you might be losing out on that investment. So that's the one side of the coin. Other side of the coin, obviously reducing the debt, the reduction of that debt service. You're basically, if you're saving 21.25%, you're making 21.25%. Look at it that way. Okay, so it's like giving you a guaranteed return on investment. It also helps you towards an improved credit score. And this is, I always say to people, if you pay off a credit card, cut up a credit card afterwards. If you're very disciplined, rather put that money in, keep it, a credit card away from your purse somewhere else and use it only for emergencies, if that. Okay. Disadvantages, obviously, long-term investment gains are seen as, you want to have, obviously, the opportunity to invest that because the money's tied up. So be aware of those kind of things. So again, our example, paying off your credit card, 20,000, if you're 10,000 Rand, you're saving yourself 21%. You're saving yourself 2,125 per year. Okay, so it also might be a more practical example in this scenario. But again, what you're doing, you're splitting it up. You pay the 10,000 Rand and you still get 10,000 Rand to invest. So you're winning in both scenarios. Starting an emergency fund or investing towards retirement, I also find this interesting. A lot of people ask this kind of question. It's generally recommended to start building an emergency fund. That's the first thing you do. If you start working and you've got any assets you're building up, first thing you want to do is be able to have a emergency fund. And when I say emergency fund, between 3 and 6 months expenses. The idea is to set it aside for unexpected expenses, things like emergency expenses or car repairs, or you might lose your job or whatever the case might be. But the idea is to have a safety net in place. So much better. So you got 100,000 Rand to invest, you decide to invest all towards your retirement. Yes, the advantage, yes, you get a big tax benefit, and you might see good returns over the over a period of time. The disadvantage is obviously you cannot access those funds at the age of 55. So it might be better again to split it. Put 50%, 50,000 into emergency fund and invest the remaining 50,000 towards retirement. So it gives you that peace of mind knowing that you're financially prepared. Another thing is also that in both scenarios, both retirement fund, be it a retirement annuity and a emergency fund, you can still contribute regularly on a monthly basis, 500 Rand, for example, to each investment. Okay, so they can also grow. This is where I want to spend a lot of time, more time on it, whether to cash out my retirement savings when changing jobs. Now, I find this happens a lot. We're having a lot of people changing jobs or being retrenched, and this question comes up a lot. So the question is, can I withdraw my retirement funds before I retire without being penalized? Yes, you can. Just be aware of the risks. So when I say retirement, this is from your pension or provident fund. You've been retrenched or you resigned, whatever the case might be. That's the only two scenarios. If your money's tied up in a retirement annuity, you won't have access to those funds. So yes, we all understand that living costs have gone up and debt levels are rising, and we understand that household cash flow might be under pressure and job security is ever a present concern. These are all valid reasons, okay, to access some, if not all, of your funds, especially your pension fund or provident fund, when leaving an employer. We understand that, okay, but saying that, cashing in your retirement savings prematurely has a double costs. Number one, you reduce your tax-free lump sum when you retire. And number two, you may pay more tax on your retirement savings. And I'll show you some examples in slides just now. So in general, it's recommended to avoid cashing in your retirement savings when changing jobs if possible. So, rather move into what we call a preservation fund. So this is a vehicle that you use. Number one, if your retirement funds are wound up or closed down, you move into a preservation fund. If you resign or you're retrenched or you're dismissed from employment, don't go waste that money. Okay, so this is the vehicle we suggest you use. So if you decide to take that money out, sorry, let's get some water here quickly. There's a withdrawal a benefit, and we also talk about a retirement benefit. So in our example here, when you resign, you're allowed to access only the first 20,000, 27,500. Okay, that's tax-free. SARS is obviously, it's a SARS regulation. The first 27,500 is tax-free. But any amount over that is taxed at a significant 18% plus. Okay, so if you withdraw more than 726,000, then obviously the tax is 27,000, sorry, 27%, and 36% on amounts over R1 million. Okay, so let's look at an example. You're changing jobs and you want to cash in your 400,000 Rand pension fund. So first of all, that 400,000 less your 27,500, the taxable amount is 372,500. You're going to pay 67,000 Rand tax on that. Okay, so you're going to pay that tax. Yes, you've got this a nice little money to play around with, and a lot of people go pay off debts and things like that, but they then again go back and start building up debt. Rather take this money and transfer it into a preservation fund. That 400,000 can be tax free. That whole amount can be tax free. So that's the advantage there. So please note, as I say, what's important to also understand that 27,500 tax free amount does not apply to every single withdrawal. So every time you might change jobs, it doesn't apply like that. So for every pre-retirement withdrawal, the amount will be aggregated. Okay, in other words, that it will be added to the previous withdrawal. You'll end up paying more and more taxes. So I don't know about you, but SARS is there to help you, but also there to they want their fair share. So let's talk about a pension preservation fund. So the idea is when members retire from a pension preservation fund, they may take the whole amount if it's less than 247,500. So yes, you might be very tempted to go spend it and have a nice holiday, buy a new car and things like that. Remember, this is supposed to be for your retirement. So don't use it. Or what I suggest you use is take 1/3. If it's higher than 247,000, take 1/3. You can spend whatever you want to with that money, pay off debt, but the balance has to be used to purchase a living annuity. Okay, that will give you that pension or a monthly income going forward. A provident fund, a big difference here is that you can take the whole amount, even if it's greater than 247,500. So you can elect to receive the full value, okay? Or you could also obviously, again, split it up and use it for to purchase a living annuity. Just understand again, those tax tables will be applying. But if you wait until the age of retirement, 55 is the earliest you can take it on, your tax tables are much less. So first of all, understand that the receiver is there to help you or make it less painful. If you reach retirement, the retirement tax tables apply, as I say, which is if you wait until retirement, your first 500,000 is tax-free. Okay, big difference. The problem is, as I say, South Africans are notoriously bad, poor savers. Okay, so our retirement statistics show that all the time. Only 6% of people can really afford to retire, maintain the current lifestyle. So the major contributor to all this, as I say, is or jeopardizing people's financial future, is that the repeated withdrawing of the retirement funds when they leave the employers is leaving people in situations like this. You know, only 6% of people be able to retire financially secure. 94% of people can't. Okay, so avoid borrowing from your future. Preserve your retirement funds for retirement. Okay, so I know I'm hopping on it, but yeah, as I say, you just understand it says here you may face taxes. I can tell you now you will face taxes on the amount withdrawn. Obviously, it depends if you're waiting for retirement, which would be more in your favor. Okay, so building a direct share portfolio versus building your trust portfolio. I also have this question a lot from people. There's pros and cons. Again, the main thing here is that, if I may say, you know, building a direct portfolio, the great thing is, yeah, it takes time. You build a portfolio over a period of time. Yes, you have the fun, the fun part of it where you might have control over your investments. You know, you're lining specific investments in your share portfolio with your goals and things like that. But it does require time, it does require some research or expertise in research, and obviously managing risk and things like that. So there's pros and cons. So let's say, for example, that you have existing share portfolio, offshore share portfolio with PSG Wealth. You might say, okay, I want to have, I believe in the growth potential of the tech stocks, you know, the technology industry shares like the Apples and the Amazons and the Microsofts of the world. The main thing I see a lot of people doing is that they're buying all into those technology stocks, all concentrated in one sector of the market, not diversified, which is very, very risky. So yes, you might have the great performance. You have to keep up to date with the news, what's happening with that industry. There's a lot of layoffs happening right now. But you know, there are risks involved. What I advocate rather is that we're looking at unit trusts, especially when you're first starting out. People don't have big amounts of money to create a large portfolio. If you're still first starting out, rather consider a unit trust investment. So we're going to go through this here. When you guys get the slide, the PDF, rather look at it here. There's pros and cons in each one of these things. Okay. So what's best for me? If you're looking at having a share portfolio, yes, it might be fun and exciting. You might have a diversified portfolio of shares already, be it in unit trusts or investments rather, and you want to trade the stocks. You made your mind up. You want to have some fun. I always say to myself, you know, it's how you view the market. You know, do you view this as a hobby? Do you view it as playing the market? Or do you look at it as business? They really set your mindset. But I might say, geez, I don't have the time, or you know, I'd rather leave this up to the pros. Or I might have less than 100,000 rand to make it a nice diversified portfolio. Ideally, you want to have 100,000 plus to make it worthwhile, a direct share portfolio. You know, 100,000, 5 stocks, 20,000 each. Your cost is about 1% per trade. But also remember, less than that, the risk is too high. Yeah, so beware of those kind of things. So what I'm advocating is obviously looking at things like a balanced portfolio. This is PSG's balanced fund. Big thing here is that you can see it's spread. I highlight the, where's my cursor here? Domestic equity, 40% in domestic equity, 20% in bonds, but also offshore. So it's a nice little spread. You can see what kind of investment, my top 10 investments is discovery potential, quite a nice little spread. Okay, but the main thing is, yeah, you can see also the objectives is long-term growth of capital. Okay, so the maximum in this portfolio is 75% equities, 25% listed property, and 45% can be invested in property in offshore investments. So the pros are doing the work for you, put it that way. Okay, so something to consider. So those of you that or just starting out, rather use a unit trust portfolio, let the pros create wealth for you. Down the line, you might have built up more capital, take some of that capital, then start on the market if you want to do it, if you have the time and things like that. I just find that most people do not have the time in it. Okay. And what's important, I want to highlight this here, is a thing called wrappers. So yes, a lot of people love unit trusts because they're simple, you have high liquidity, there's low initial investment amount, you can start a little 500 Rand. Those are all nice little benefits. You also, as I said, you're having a professional fund manager looking after your, and not only fund manager, you have a whole management team looking after your investments. You can invest in local and offshore, diversify like that through a single investment. But then if you really want to have a share portfolio, you know, and shares have outperformed all other asset classes over the long term, you understand volatility, you understand the implications of capital gains tax, economic cycles, and have at least 1 million Rand to invest, then I sincerely recommend maybe looking at a managed portfolio. You can get through one of our wealth managers, and they'll do it for you. So that's another option you can have. Okay. But I want to highlight here what we call wrappers. So a lot of people might get involved with a wrapper, by the way, it's just a structure where you make a financial investment. But it's also, you know, through, you know, if you invest in a basic investment, They have different structures. You'll have different outcomes. So a wrapper, just if you choose your wrapper, the right wrapper for the right investment vehicle, obviously you'll have additional benefits. So most people invest in a unit trust, which is great. They provide, as I said, a easy and convenient way to invest in the stock market or gaining exposure to the equity market. And most people have all their money built up substantial portfolios that way. But the sad part is they've left money on the table because they've exposed themselves to unnecessary tax and other cost leakages, and obviously that are not optimally structured, we put it that way. So using the appropriate wrapper, they will have saved themselves a lot more tax, put it that way. So the two on the highlight there, you can see I've made it bold, is a tax-free savings plan and a retirement annuity. Yes, and I've touched on this before. With tax-free, you can invest up to 36,000 a year, tax-free, 3,000 rand a month, you can put it that way. You're restricted to 500,000 lifetime contribution. This is contributions, okay? But what's important is there's no tax payable on any growth that you might get in this portfolio. So your capital gains grow, there's no capital gains, there's no dividend tax, there's no income, there's no interest, tax on interest, etc. So that's a nice way to complement a retirement annuity. Again, I have spoken about this before. If you want to save towards retirement, use a retirement annuity wrapper. I'm amazed how many people use just a normal unit trust fund. Remember the advantage of your retirement annuity, your contributions are tax deductible. So use that to your advantage, number one. Number two, any growth in that retirement annuity is tax-free. Okay, use it to your advantage. Okay, so I know I'm harping on it. Another big advantage is that obviously does not a retirement annuity, the proceeds from your retirement annuity does not form part of your estate. So you have beneficiaries and things like that. They'll be able to get those funds either as in a living annuity, or they can carry on with it. But as I say, if you're not, it doesn't form part of your estate, you can save 20 to 25% on your state duty, number one. And number two, there's no executive fees. So you can save again up to 4% in executive fees. So be aware of those vehicles. Okay, use the right structure. And again, with unit trusts, it's different, let me put it this way, different horses for different courses. So you might be very risk averse and very conservative. Your time horizon might be very short. Then we have a money market or income funds to look at. You can look at cautious funds where you only have 30% exposure to the equity market. The longer your time horizon, the more risk you take on, the more greater exposure you want to have to the equity market. So there's different risk ranges you can build a whole portfolio from that. So guys, I know I've run out of time. I had a lot of slides to go through. So in summary, I just want to highlight there for you, financial risk literacy is ability to allocate or effectively allocate, evaluate, and use information. So there's a lot of information available on the internet. Do your research, ask questions. On the next slide, you'll see that I've got all the links to the key information documents on the different investment vehicles. There's pros and cons in each one of them. Again, on the highlights, different horses for different courses, but use that tax advantage, tax efficient vehicles in your favor. So yes, I hope you realize there's different financial decisions you need to make, a lot of choices you have to make. There's pros and cons, but that's again, depends on your financial circumstances, the economic environment, and obviously your lifestyle. And just lastly, there's a little quote there, and I always find it interesting. Good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment. So don't make the mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. Ask questions. Speak to a financial advisor. I know there's quite a few financial advisors on this webinar today. But you can get hold of me. I can refer you to financial advisors. We're there to help you. Okay. So in conclusion, I'm maybe going to highlight for you again. Do not leave money on the table and expose yourself to unnecessary tax. Okay. So research the products. As I say, here's the different key information documents highlighted there. There's your key information document on the voluntary investment plan. This is what you want to use for emergency funds, okay? Maintenance funds, all those kind of things. You can label them. Holiday fund, short term, okay? Retirement annuities, long term. Tax deductible contributions, tax-free. It complements your retirement annuities. Those two go together. They're married. Nice thing is that you can build up over 500,000 there. Tackle that first, and then they use that to pay off your debt and things like that before taking on a retirement annuity. If you're being retrenched or moving jobs, rather move your money to a preservation fund. Okay, and those of you that want to look at the equity fund, you can go learn more about it there. But hopefully I've answered all your questions. Oh, sorry, let me look at the questions, by the way. Cool. Let me see what questions you guys have here. Don't look like there's any questions. Tax-free amounts available upon resignation and retirement from a retirement fund have been increased by 10%. Available for the resignation. I'm not 100% sure of your question there, Liesel, but I'll check up for you and I'll come back to you. Tax threshold on retirement has been listed to 550. Okay, I put because I took my slides from SARS website, so I'm sorry about that. I'll have to check that. I'm sure it was 550. Yeah, I'll also come back to you on that one, Nick. As I said, I took it from SARS website. Okay, thanks for highlighting it for me anyway. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions? There's a question from Jan. Jan wants to know what's the minimum investment for shares. Jan, as I said, there's no minimum investment. Obviously, first of all, you need to take consideration the costs. Our costs are like what, 184 Rand a trade. Ideally, 20,000 Rand, your cost is about 1%. So 20,000 with 100,000 Rand, 5 different shares, you'll be able to build a diversified portfolio. Okay, that's the main thing about a lot of people when they get involved in the share market. They do not have enough funds, and obviously risk. That's a big thing there. Okay, that's number one. And number two, it takes time and also knowledge and experience. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions. I'll come back to Nick and Liesl about those. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Any questions you guys have, you're welcome to drop me an email on wealth@PSG or also call me on 0860 000 368. But from my side, thanks for being on this webinar. Until next month, bye for now.